Hello, welcome to Boys Town. It's a beautiful summer day here in the village. It's nice and cool in the shade, typical baseball weather, and it's that baseball time of the year here in the village of Boys Town. College World Series is going to be taking place beginning tomorrow in the city of Omaha, that little town that's near us. So we're really excited. Now here at Boys Town, we've had baseball part of our history for many years, and in our museum every year for the College World Series we put on a display. I'd like to show you some of those artifacts and other special events we have this summer dealing with our baseball history here. And in our display here we have a special assortment of baseballs. This one is Mickey Mantle's ball that he autographed when he came and visited us back in the 1980s. It's part of our collection. Babe Ruth was one of the first to autograph a baseball and send it to us here in the village of Boys Town. And Mickey Mantle's, his autograph's getting a little faded. That's why we only bring these balls out for a very short time, once a year during this time of the year. We have a special image of Father with some of the boys playing baseball. You can see the huge crowd. That was an exhibition game the boys played back east. Thousands of people would turn out to see Father Flanagan and the boys in the baseball team when they would travel, just like our football team. Over the years, we've had College World teams visit us. So these are some of the autographed baseballs from different teams from different eras that have been out to the village of Boys Town visited when they were playing here in the city of Omaha. We have a little mini helmet that was presented to us from the College World Series, some of the little mini banners that we have. We have an autographed book, The Road to Omaha, that was done by Ryan McGee, talking about the history of the College World Series and its impact upon the Omaha community and the players themselves. All the important people played, from President Bush all the way to players who are playing in the major leagues today. In 2007, the Oregon State team came and played, and they eventually went on to win the championship one year. So this is the ball they autographed when they visited the village. George Brett came one year to visit us, so we have our baseball from that great Kansas City Royals star when he visited the village. In May 1977, Ozzie Smith came to the village, and he autographed a baseball too and donated. And this is all part of the collection we preserve here and display again once a year during College World Series. And these items technically belong to Boys Town, the children of Boys Town. We have one of our special awards. Our boys eventually won the state championship in baseball, and this is the Class A championship from 1953 that the boys won in the state of Nebraska. And it is on display here in the Hall of History. They're usually at our field house, which is close to the public. But if you like to come out and see some of the special awards, we have one right here in the Hall of History we brought over, because our boys eventually became state champions of baseball in the 50s and 60s. And we have some images of our boys, how they would play baseball out here in the village of Boys Town. In the very early days, the boys would call something called choosing sides. You can kind of notice the boys there have all their hands up on the baseball bat at the top, and that top boy then got to help pick the teams here in the village of Boys Town amongst the teams. But everybody had the opportunity to play baseball. The early years, they didn't have much money to play. You can see from the boys' uniforms, they were just hand-me-down uniforms donated to Boys Town, and they would be cut to fit. A couple of the boys had actually outgrown their uniforms, and then eventually when Abbott Costello visited, they donated brand new sporting equipment and base uniforms for the boys when they came to the village of Boys Town. This picture shows the boys playing on one of our fields here. You can see our fields are basically just mud areas that the kids would play. This is a nice picture because it shows how open it was back at that time, back in the 1940s. And way off in the distance, if you're from the city of Omaha, that's 144th and Dodge Street, where every day today, close to 50,000 cars go through that intersection. Back at that time, it was a quiet, sleepy area. This is our Boys Town farm. Some of the buildings where some of the staff lived, and then some of the other original buildings that are still listed here and existing here in the village of Boys Town. Even in the wintertime, the boys would play baseball. Because this is an image of our field house back at that time. It had the original dirt floor back in 1949, and the boys in the wintertime are inside, and they're practicing their pitching inside our field house here in the village of Boys Town. Massive structure, built by Father Flanagan based on the University of Michigan. He wanted the premier facility for the boys from their sporting events. And then one of our baseball teams from the 1950s. This is when we were a little more organized, and this is one of our teams where the boys got to play and be part of the teams in the state of Nebraska. That was really important to Father, because the early days we had difficulty. Some schools didn't want to play us because we had mixed race teams. 1949, a group of our boys traveled to New York City, and they got to play on Long Island, a group of boys from an orphanage there. And it was a huge event for the boys because many of them had never flown before in their lives. So this is an image of the boys here in Omaha getting ready to get on the plane to fly off to New York City back in 1949 to play that game. It was played on the Polo Grounds, and we still have people contacting us today talking about the event that took place at that time. It was so important to the community of Long Island and the areas of New York City. So it was a very unique opportunity for our boys to do that, and that's part of our Boys Town concept even today, exposing our boys new ideas, new theories, and letting them go out and see new things when they travel for the village of Boys Town and do different events. In our village of Boys Town, we have our museum here, and for our College World Series, and all throughout the summer, we're doing a Boys Town scavenger hunt. And visitors are able to come into our Hall of History Museum, and throughout the museum, we have these little numbers and throughout the museum, and visitors can go in and they can find those, answer these questions as they walk through the exhibitions, and then when they're done, they can win a special prize, and it's a prize given at our visitor center. And within the museum, we have a special selfie area that we've created. So when our visitors come out to visit during the College World Series time or throughout the whole summer, we'll have this up all the way through July. We have our little special selfie station. And we have two individuals that were important baseball visitors here in 1927. We have Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig, who were two guests that came to Boys Town after winning the World Series. They were on a nationwide travel throughout the United States, and they came to visit Father Flanagan out of the blue. They just heard about it and wanted to visit. Babe Ruth went on to become one of our biggest supporters. And Lou Gehrig also became a very important supporter of Boys Town itself. In fact, in our back part of our museum, we have another exhibit section. In this exhibit section, we have artifacts from those two individuals that they were sent to Boys Town in the years after their visit from 1927, because a connection was kept with Babe Ruth and with Lou Gehrig. And we have a bust here of Lou Gehrig that his widow sent to Boys Town back in the 1950s. This bust was actually at Yankee Stadium, and Mrs. Gehrig felt it wasn't in a position that was appropriate for her husband's memory, so she sent it to Boys Town. And for many years, this was on display at our field house here in the village of Boys Town. And then in the 1970s, when the Hall of History was being created, in the 1980s, it was moved here to be on display. So year-round, you can come and see the special statue of Lou Gehrig that we have here. And it's unique because it's made to be turned. So it's like he's looking at you at bat. So this is one of our unique items that we have here of baseball memorabilia within the Hall of History. And in our special case of special supporters and donors, we have our Babe Ruth baseball. And Babe Ruth used to autograph bushel baskets full of baseballs and send them to the village of Boys Town for Father Flanagan to sell. This baseball was kept by Father for many years, and we have it on display now. Right next to our bat from Hank Aaron, that's a commemorative bat, and that was a commemorative bat representing how he broke Babe Ruth's hitting record. So we have that on display, and Mr. Aaron gave that to us when he visited the village of Boys Town. And above it, we have in display the original photograph from 1927 of Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig when they visited the village. We have a copy of that actually autographed by both of those players that people can come to the Hall of History, and we sell copies of it. If they like to buy a copy, they can take home and display in their own home. Throughout the Hall of History, we have all these unique items for baseball. There's even more that you can come and see. And you can learn more about the village of Boys Town if you go to boystown.org and come out. We actually have a new tourism app. When you come to visit, so you can do a self-guided tour through the village. You can learn about Father Flanagan's ministry and how today we continue to serve children and families across America. And if you'd like to support us in our mission, please go to boystown.org.